Yo, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Mostly Low Budget Movie Reviews. I am your host, Clarence. Thank you for tuning in. And it's the weekend, so of course it's time for another review. And we do have the number one trending movie on Netflix right now, starring Chris Hemsworth, called Spiderhead. It's listed as a crime, drama, action, which isn't really all that accurate, but more on that later. So what is this one about? We start out with the man in a room agreeing to receive some drug from Steve, and that's Hemsworth's character, and he has an assistant. I can't think of his name right now. I think it was Mark or something like that. But anyway, spoiler free, the drug has its desired effect, and they're pleased with the progress. As it turns out, this is some sort of high-tech prison, and the prisoners there applied for entry, and there are no cells there, there's no locks, they have their own rooms, entertainment, good food, a certain amount of freedom. In exchange, they have to agree to an experimental process and medication and testing and things of that nature. So, Jeff, one of the prisoners, was recently used in some experiments with some female prisoners, and Steve brings him in to take part in this next experiment, but he has to make the selection of who gets this drug. Now, it's something that he's actually taken before, and spoiler free, it doesn't make you feel good or positive or anything. So they're putting him on the spot to choose who he wants to give this really negative drug to. And yeah, so who was he going to choose? And that's where I'll stop, because from there, the experiments continue, and Jeff begins to figure out maybe these experiments in this place isn't exactly what they've been told. So what did the pros think? Well, they came in at a 44% on the Rotten scale, with the audience at a 35%, so they're pretty similar here. They feel the same way. And what did I think? Well, let's start with the positives, and I'll start with the strongest part of this, and it's the premise. Watching them conduct these experiments with the different drugs and seeing the effects is pretty interesting if, executed correctly, and, they go through the motions here. We all know things are not as they seem, so we are waiting to see what the purpose really is, and they did a decent job of building on to that. And there were a couple of little twists and turns here and there that they added in. I mean, they were expected. Again, you're assuming that, we're going to find out the deal with Jeff and why he's there, and, some of the other characters, why they're really in prison and things of that nature. So, and, of course we know that the prison and the drug, we know all that stuff isn't what it is, so we're just waiting for the reveals and hope that those reveals pay off. And a couple of them actually do, which, I enjoyed and I appreciated quite a bit. There's some nice performances here from almost everyone, but it's a weird place to start negatives, but that's actually where my negatives are going to start. Because, for example, I liked Steve, which is Hemsworth's character, and the personality and the way he played it, but a lot of the performance and the dialogue just felt out of place for the story and the setting they had here. He played it way more whimsical and happy and cheery than I would have expected for this environment. Maybe that was the point. Maybe that's what they were going for. But for me, it just didn't fit and it didn't feel right. But that's kind of on par with a lot of this other stuff. For example, the soundtrack, which actually the soundtrack does fit the character, and I like the soundtrack. There's some good music here, some hip hop samples in there. If you're a hip hop head, then you'll recognize these songs, and you'll immediately think about the rap counterpart. But these are the originals. But anyway, the music with the character, it made the tone kind of all over the place. There was a death that occurs, and it should feel a lot heavier than it does, but instead it was played kind of for laughs, it felt like. I don't know what action they're actually talking about with the exception of this little fist fight scene they had, but there really wasn't any action here. So if you read the description, you're thinking you're going to get action, and you're not really going to get any of that. It just doesn't feel like a complete, coherent story. It feels like they had a story, some outline, and then somebody came in later and said, hey, let's add this. Hey, let's add that. Yeah, and I couldn't help but think while I was watching this, I was like, you know what? This would have been a really good Black Mirror episode. Trim this down to about an hour. Because really, ultimately, there's about 35 minutes of this they could just lose because they exposition a lot of the stuff, without you really knowing anything. So yeah, they trimmed it down to about an hour because there wasn't a whole lot of meat on the bones as far as the script is concerned. But I don't want to beat this one up too much. Let me bottom line this one for you. Did I enjoy it? And overall, even though some of the pieces are nice, I'll have to say no. I'm going to put this one right at a 50% on the Rotten scale. Again, the sum of its parts is what's the problem here once we, put it all together. The setup, some of the performances, and again, just didn't come together. The pacing was off. More to the point, it was really slow. And it just didn't feel like they were focused on the right things as far as the setting and the story go. Something sad is what I think I was supposed to feel, but the actors would not give me that emotion, which confused me. And I was like, well, is this supposed to be sad? Am I supposed to care about this or not? Even though they make it feel like I'm supposed to care. But anyway, it's not horrible by any means. But you'd be better off actually watching a couple episodes of Black Mirror. In fact, episodes, The Black Museum, White Bear, White Christmas, off the top of my head, dealt with experiments with advancements in technology which are unique and play out in a satisfying and sometimes twisted way. Whereas this movie doesn't really take those steps, and it doesn't push and get edgy enough. They have a couple of little turns here, but the ending is really super plain, and they really didn't go anywhere with that. So just set your expectations accordingly, or like I said, better yet, watch one of those Black Mirror episodes. And with that being said, I'm going to close it out right here. If this is your first time, don't make it your last. This has been a Podbean production, mostly low-budget movie reviews with Clarence, up on all streaming platforms now. Check me out. Also, check out the TikTok. I will be releasing new content this weekend. I got a few ideas, and I'm finally going to go ahead and put them together, and hopefully they work out okay. So, low-budget movie reviews, check out the TikTok for sure, because like I said, stuff that's going on over there you won't be getting here, and vice versa. So, anyway, thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.